All right, you guys are live.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. We need to establish that we have a quorum, and we do. 7, I believe, 7 members. I'd like to welcome 2 new members on our board, Candy Poole and Bill Feist. Welcome.
Howdy.
Thanks
Hi.
for serving. We appreciate it a whole bunch. Today's date is May 3rd, 2021, 1:30 p.m. We need to take action on the last meeting's minutes. If everyone's had a minute to look over the minutes.
Do it in a minute.
Need a motion for approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Need a second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Previous minutes are approved. Item number 3. ZBA 21-07, 117 Hidalgo Street. Higgins, single member District 1, Tommy Hebert. A request for approval of a variance from section 501.A, the zoning ordinance to allow for rear yard setback of 0 feet in lieu of the required minimum 10 feet adjacent to an alley, and a side yard setback of 0 feet in lieu of the required 5-foot minimum in order to construct a carport immediately adjacent to the rear of a residence within the 2-family residential RS2 zoning district located at 117 Hidalgo Street. Who's presenting today?
I will, Mr. Chairman. This is Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. Before you have a picture of Mr. Higgins's home. This is actually was originally one lot, the lot to the north and this lot, and it was divided and a home was built on each one of the lots. As you can see by Mr. Higgins' house, how close it is to the property line on the side. And so that has been a concern of both his and ours. As you indicated, this is in District 1, Mr. Hebert's district, and it is the Nazareth neighborhood. This was divided before it was annexed into the city, and so it's one of the properties that came in originally from the county. It is zoned 2-family residential, so there was no problem with the division that came into the city, except for the side setback. We sent out 14 notices. We did not receive any either in support or in opposition. This is a site plan that Mr. Higgins submitted. You can see this is his front yard. This is Hidalgo Street. First floor, there is a second floor over a portion of the house. The garage is attached to the house. And then there's a backyard. And then this is where Mr. Higgins is wanting to place his carport. The space is about 20 feet by 18 that he would like to have. The fence is right here. And the house is looks like to be, when I was out there, between 1 foot and 1.5 feet from that property line. As you know, there are 3 variance categories that are available. Special circumstances resulting in unnecessary hardship, overriding public interest, and literal enforcement. In this case, the literal enforcement is the one that the applicant believes is enforced here. He believes that he is being kept from doing what others.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me just use the scope.
Is everything okay? what others have done, and that their alley is a public, although it's listed as a public alley, it really is only in use by the residents that live adjacent to that alley. And as you can see, most everybody, when you look closely at that area, they do have either a carport or a garage that they do enter from the rear. When staff was doing the analysis on this request, as we indicated, the area was developed and built before being annexed into the city. There were no setback requirements at the time when it was developed in the county. The hardship here is that it's partly applicant driven, in that the applicant is wanting to put the carport at the property line. And as you know, there are setback requirements, and there's also a building code issue whenever that occurs. The applicant believes that this is the minimum action that meets his needs. He wants to cover that entire space so that he can park his vehicles under it and have the protection. Staff believes that the request for the variance is bringing it too close to the side property line. The garage is attached to the house, and so it is not going to meet any of the setback requirements. We understand about wanting to cover it to the alley, and that does make sense. However, going to the side property line is a greater variance request than we believe is necessary. Staff would like to see the 2-foot setback at least from that side property line. The building to the side of this piece of property has a carport, or has a garage that is 2 foot from the side property line. And placing the carport so near that garage is a point of concern for staff also. However, we do believe that his requests are generally in conformance with the zoning code, except for the side property line concern. Staff is recommending approval of the variance to allow the 0 rear yard setback in lieu of the 10-foot that's adjacent to an alley. But staff is recommending that the 0 setback be denied because it is just too close to that side property line and to the carport adjacent. If the side yard of the carport was lined up with the entrance to the garage, it would make the carport between 2 and 3 feet from that side property line. And we believe that would be comparable to the setback observed by his neighbor and other neighbors. And we believe that the building code, although it would still require the 5 feet, he would be able to accomplish that 1 hour wall on that side property line. And with that, I'll stop sharing the screen and answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for staff? Like we have 2 things happening here, huh? Approval is denied. Who wants to go? See if I have this right in my head, Sherry. If it goes, the denied is, lost it. So, okay, you're on the 0 foot variance on the backyard side of it. The staff is recommending approval.
Yes, sir, we are.
The side yard, is that the side yard variance of 0 foot setback and side yard in lieu of the minimum 5 feet?
Yes, sir, and we're recommending that, that be denied. The placing it at 2 or 3 feet, which would actually cover the entrance to his garage door area. So we feel that that is ample space, and it would be a safer situation, even though it's going to have a building code issue with that side adjacent to the side property line. And he will have to meet the 1 hour wall. That gives him the space to accomplish that and to maintain it.
The metal building next door to his, is that a garage? Or that's a garage, right?
It is a garage, yes, and it's 2 foot from the property line, but it's separated by more than 10 feet from the house. So that does meet the requirement.
Gotcha, gotcha. And kind of cut the speaker kind of cut out. If he goes to 0 foot, he has to do the firewall, or if he goes to 5 foot, he still has to do the 1 hour firewall.
Jeff. I'm sorry, I missed that.
You want me to ask the question again?
Please.
Okay, so you are denying the 0 side setback. If he does the 1 hour firewall on the 0 setback, does that satisfy the heartburn?
If he can do the 1 hour wall that meets the requirements, he will have, yes, that would meet it. However, the building official has met with Mr. Higgins and talked with him a couple of times, and I think maybe Mr. Higgins would like to address the building code issue.
Okay, is Mr. Higgins online here? Let me back up. Any more questions for staff from the board? Okay. Is Mr. Higgins here? Public
Yes.
comment? Hello, Mr. Higgins.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just now, actually not very long ago, got a look at the staff report for this matter. And to be clear, and we're talking about definitions, I guess. That metal building in my neighbor's yard, I don't know whether they classify it as a garage or a shed. There's certainly not been any vehicles parked in it, as I don't believe it was big enough when they constructed it. I guess I'm at a loss to understand the building or residential code that applies here regarding the 1 hour firewall, only because as submitted in the drawings, we're only talking, it's a full open metal structure. There are just going to be 2 posts on my property line. That is the only thing next to their fence. I guess it could be modified to bring those 2 posts, 2 support posts on the north side there to right next to the slab that exists already on my driveway. But again, I'm just looking for something to protect my vehicles from any potential storm damage, from any UV rays from the sun, etc. It offers me another place to work in the shade during extreme temperatures. Something I've probably been meaning to do for years, but finally decided to go proceed with the process. And in the staff report, it also, under the allowed variances, no, wait a minute, let's see, let me go back to the right paragraph here. Under variances, paragraph number 2, the special circumstances are not a result of the actions of the applicant. In that, the home and the garage, they say, are on or within 1 foot of the side property line. Technically speaking, yeah, I know it's not much, but the survey does show a 30-inch separation from my structure to the property line.
Okay,
So like I said, I'm saying it's just an open carport. I don't understand the requirement for a firewall exactly because certainly don't plan on having any open flames under that structure ever, but we had that sideline boundary issue fixed years ago. Their fence actually encroached over the property line right up to the corner of that garage on the north side. And we got that straightened out. So all the fence that they constructed is in compliance with the survey boundaries and everything's fine with that.
so if I, looking at the pictures and the drawing and the layout there, you're wanting to put the post you don't want to cut through your driveway to put those posts in.
Correct, because I'm still looking to accommodate both vehicles to park there.
Mhm.
The truck that you see in that satellite photo is about 22 feet long. There was no way a garage was built here for anything to put that in or anything. As it is, it sets at a slight angle. Would certainly having the stationary post that, as requested at the zero line, would allow me adequate turning space for parking that as I have now.
Let's see, would you put the post up next to the wood fence there next to your neighbors or just inset?
Correct. Correct. It would be within just a few inches, which is still on my property line. Which now, and I looked at the posts on the south side adjacent to my backyard fence. Putting them there on 10-foot centers would still allow maintenance of either fence structure from either side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are you figuring on attaching the cover structure to your garage?
No, it won't be connected to the actual house itself. The plan was to, as the drawings show, the 10-foot center for the mounting post. The top frame would extend approximately 4 feet from each end of the posts, and which would bring it within probably about 5 or 6 inches of the actual structure, and clearing the soffit by approximately 3 or 4 inches. So the back edge tucking up under the soffit next to the garage would give me about an 8'3" clearance, and then sloping as recommended by the contractor to come out of probably, I don't know, about 7.5 feet, whatever those drawings are.
It'll be a metal top
Oh,
roof?
it's going to be all full metal, 26 gauge covering.
And which way will you be draining the water off the roof?
It'll be draining to the alley. It'll be on the gradual slope to the alley side.
Is there any potential drainage that would occur to your neighboring properties?
No, as it is, any rainfall drainage, it's really just spread out to the alley, to the drainage ditch that's adjacent to Country Club Road in our alley.
And you did state that there's a survey that shows that your property line versus his, where his structure is encroaching onto yours. Is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
No, sir. The past history was they had a fence. The fence you see there used to encroach all the way up to the corner of my garage on the house structure. We got that resolved about 9 years ago. So everything that exists now, the fence is on the property line according to the survey.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the building official, Charlie Kemp, is here if you have any questions for her.
Okay. I don't at this moment. I got a better understanding here. So, any more comments from the board to Mr. Higgins?
And not necessarily to Mr. Higgins, but maybe to the staff. Could they talk more about Are they requiring a firewall, or does he not need a firewall since he's just putting up a cover?
Under the International Residential Code, it does require any structure that's within 5 feet of a property line is required to provide a 1-hour wall. We've sent numerous times to the International Code Council for interpretation for like open structures. And what it indicates is that you can only have a percentage of that wall allowed openings, and it's very minimal. I think it's like less than 1%. So when you have posts, that whole area is considered open. So they'd have to provide a 1-hour wall there or move the posts off that property line 5 foot.
Wow.
Which of course would be impossible with the existing slab.
Mhm. Yeah,
But the carport isn't necessarily going to be next door to the structure where people live. It's next door to the existing, whatever he's using that for, carport next door, garage. So I guess that's
correct. Although it is attached to the garage, which is attached to the house, or it will be immediately adjacent to the garage that is attached to the house.
If I may clarify, if it has any bearing whatsoever, that storage shed they put in their yard, they actually, a number of years ago, actually enclosed their existing garage and made it a third bedroom. So there was a garage equipped with their residence, as was mine when it was constructed. But like I say, this really just serves as a storage shed. So
I have a question. If the city's saying it needs to have a 1-hour fire rating and it's almost sitting at 0 lot line, how is one to construct something on the exterior surface when you don't have any area to work in?
One thing, keep in mind, there's so many ways to achieve that 1 hour, but there would have to be some kind of agreement if you're talking about them being on the neighboring property to do any kind of maintenance. And we see that a lot of times in lots that are designed for the 0 lot line design. They'll have like a maintenance easement on the neighboring property.
Yeah, so it would, in order for him to accomplish this, then we're also talking about a maintenance issue. I mean, a maintenance agreement between him and his neighbor, right? Is that right, Charlie?
We don't get into the
Oh, we don't get into
maintenance
all that stuff,
agreement
okay.
portion, but there would,
Right.
to my understanding, there'd have to be some kind of
Yeah, they have
consideration.
to have something in order for him to be able to accomplish this, if
Mhm.
this was allowed. I don't know. Candy, what's your thoughts?
I'm in the thinking that we need to find a way to help this situation. Not one he originally made himself. And I have no problem with the post being right on the fence, but if that doesn't have the 5 foot, then we have an issue with this firewall. So trying to find a way around that for him would be what I would like to do, if that's
Yeah.
even possible.
Right, yeah, me too.
Is the firewall a must? Or are we going to vote on that?
You don't have jurisdiction over the building construction, right?
Okay.
Was there, I don't see in my packet where any neighbor within the 200-foot radius sent anything in, yay or nay?
No, we did not have any feedback from anybody.
Mr. Higgins, if your adjoining neighbor would be opposed to you having a best pocket agreement to allow you the opportunity to construct this wall to meet city's fire code?
I've not spoken to my neighbor directly about it, and I guess since no comment came forth back to the board. I don't know. Like I said, I can understand if this were a fully enclosed carport and there was a structure wall there that would have to be fire rated. I have no idea of the intent or definitions in the International Building or Residential Code when it was adopted by the city. Like I said, I think, like I say, what I was proposing was where the posts are would certainly not interfere with any maintenance of the fence to my adjoining neighbor.
But you do understand our dilemma in regard to the city's code enforcement regarding that open area, the firewall, I mean, the fire rating, et cetera, right?
Right. If that is an accurate interpretation of the building code, then it's I guess would have to be brought up to the city for reconsideration. But I don't see them doing it entirely across the city, or unless they could grant a variance to the exception of that in this case, which certainly is a lot more work.
Charlie, is there anything, any way to accommodate Mr. Higgins without, with this enforcement regarding the fire rating?
Well, codes are a minimum standard and
Right,
they're adopted by right through council. There wasn't an amendment made, and any amendments made, it can't be less restrictive.
right, got you.
One thing that I think when they're looking at the codes, keep in mind, you're trying to keep from creating any issues, not only any fire on his property and giving time for the fire department to get out there to distinguish the fire, but also to keep from minimal damage to the neighboring properties and
Right,
the other structures on his property.
right, got you, absolutely.
That's why they try to look for a fire break, keeping that distance, or a firewall.
Right,
So understanding the intent of that, should a structure fire happen at my residence, my house, I think, yeah, we might be both in trouble, my neighbor and ours. But like say in this case, I'm looking for an open metal structure that is not a fire. There's no addition to the house or anything else. So
Well, and actually metal doesn't carry any kind of fire rating, and after on the heat of the fire, it does melt and cause, again, you're still causing structural damage and creating failure on that structure, which tends to domino if you don't have a fire break, meaning distance, or the firewall to stop that.
What is the distance between the side property line and the house? That's not 5 feet.
it's right, like in accordance with the survey right now, it's 30 inches. To what I think I stand corrected. The distance between her house, basically the south wall of her first floor to mine is 36 inches. My property line goes out from the north, from my north wall, it goes out 30 inches to the property line.
I got you. 30 inches. So what's the classification of this lot? 0 lot line? RS2?
No, it's strictly RS2. Again, just to remind you, this was built before it was annexed into the city.
Sherry, do we know when the annexation happened? I'm not very clear on that at all.
97.
Yeah,
97.
So this wouldn't be allowed by the city code today to build a house like that.
it would
No.
not.
So we're already non-compliant basically with the 36 inches from the side yard, right?
Very much so.
yeah.
And in driving through the neighborhood, it's not the only one.
Yeah. So.
But this is not the only request that you have had in the past. And it's not the only one that has had to comply with the 1 hour wall wanting to go closer than a side property line. would
Yeah,
allow.
but that code came on, this is kind of out of its control because the house was built there first like this. So I understand the code, what the code says. This was out in Los Lomas years ago out in the country. It's not in, the house itself is not in code compliance if it was to be rebuilt today.
I don't know what.
Is that not considered a hardship? That was beyond Mr. Higgins' control for what he wants to do.
Question for Sherry.
Yes,
In your staff report, you got the information that was the house I'm in was built in 76 and the other one was built in 74.
that's the information we have, yes.
Oh, how do you get that information? Because I only asked because the Tom Green County, I believe the appraisal district has built in 79, but I'm not really clear.
That's actually where I got it, from the appraisal district.
Okay.
Dick Cobb. You didn't get a movement out of you, Candy.
I'm sorry.
I said Dick Cobb.
Yes, Dick Cobb.
Yes.
I do remember that. My parents lived in Los Lomas for almost 20 years. What we called up on the hill.
All right. I think it falls under the hardship myself. To be quite honest with you. And if the neighbor's not opposing it, he's going to drain the water to the alley. It's going to be a metal structure. You're going to use metal post. I don't know. There's encroachment already by the rule of law, by the rule of the code. It's been grandfathered.
They're compounding it. Remember, if you allow it, he still has to meet the building code.
Mm-hmm.
With the firewall.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's what we're here for. To not are we requesting no firewall?
No, sir, that isn't under your purview.
I'm sorry.
That's not something that you can have any action on.
No.
So we don't have the whiskers to make that decision.
Nope.
Who can that decision be appealed to at the city council? Could city legal staff be involved in an interpretation of the building code and application?
So like Charlie said, because that's adopted in our ordinance, if it went to city council, it would be a matter of amending the ordinance, which if I understood Charlie, I'm not sure is possible because that is a minimum standard. So I don't know that they could adopt an ordinance that said you didn't have to have any firewall. Is that right, Charlie?
That's correct. Because it's a minimum standard, you kind of have to, it's across the board.
Higgins, that creates a problem. We don't have any control of that firewall.
So they're going to require one be designed into this existing structure plan?
Don't know if I understand the question.
Well, I mean, if I'm to build a firewall on this structure, is it still permitted to be on the 0 lot line at the boundary?
It's 1 hour. If it met the 1 hour requirement, yes.
Okay, can anybody tell me the materials required or designed to meet a 1 hour firewall?
Yes, sir. There's numerous ways. You'd have to go with a nationally recognized testing agency. 2 of the most common are Factory Mutual and Underwriter's Label. And what you can do is you can tell us how you want to achieve that 1 hour. I can't begin to tell you how many, there's thousands of ways to achieve that. So probably what would be best if your contractor would want to search what would work best for you as far as like the location and the materials that they want to use. And then you can just tell us, you know, what assembly you're going to use and we go forward from there.
Okay, so we go with the firewall design in the plans. Now, does this mean that it still goes to my preferred boundary at the 0 lot line, or are they going to adjust this? Do they want to adjust where that north boundary of the carport is?
Well-
The side setback, your side setback? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah, you'll have to, it sounds to me like you'd have to put, if you want to go to the property line, you have to put a 1 hour firewall. No one's shaking their head no, so I must be right. Okay.
And board member, Mr. Cortez, this is Aaron Fenoy, Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services. I believe that's what the case is here to decide is, should it be a 0 lot line setback, a 2.5 line setback recommended by planning, or a 5-foot setback as the zoning code. So that's what we're discussing is what is the variance in the zoning ordinance this board is willing to give the applicant for this structure.
Are you saying that this board has the ability to make the variance 0, 2.5, or 5 foot? Is that what you just said?
Yes, ma'am. Essentially, I believe staff is recommending the 2.5 foot to, and I don't want to speak for Charlie, but to not fire rate, I think it has to be at least 5 foot, which I believe they already said they couldn't obtain because of the concrete pad, or 0 up to the property line, which we wouldn't recommend because of the maintenance type items, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't get worked out between property owners. I think Sherry Bailey's or staff's recommendation is the 2.5 feet, which would give him a small area to work in to maintain that side of the structure.
That is not in my, under the recommendations, that's not what it's saying, but okay.
Oh, is it not? Am I misinterpreting that, Sherry Bailey?
Well, I don't know, it's a 0, deny variance to allow for a 0 foot side yard setback in lieu of the required minimum 5 feet. That's it. It's either 0 or 5 on what I'm reading.
If they allowed the 2.5, which would put it right in front of the garage entrance, where the garage door is, if they allowed it, that would still require the 1 hour firewall.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think we're got to have the firewall down. Now we're working on the 0 or the 2.5. Well, let's see. Okay, so like driveway is going over. You don't have, because the driveway is going over there. You don't have enough room for to put the 2.5 foot.
Well, you would still have 18 feet.
So if we allow the 2 foot variance, they still have to put the 1 hour firewall somewhere inside that 2 foot variance to the line, correct?
That's correct.
But that gives them 2 feet to play with for the wall. Is that correct?
To design a wall that would meet the building code.
Yeah, to design the
And
wall, a 2 foot variance would allow them to use that 2 foot space for their wall.
Right.
Whereas if they go to 0 variance, they don't have anywhere to put that wall. Is that right?
It would be a difficult placement for sure.
Mr. Higgins, do you have
Yes,
any
sir.
way to drill through the driveway to set a post?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all the question.
Have you checked into, you have a 20-foot driveway right there.
It's actually about 18. Well, where my fence line is at the alley is only about 18 feet. Now the whole width of it, yes, looks to be about 20 feet.
Right. Minimum 2-car garage opening 16 feet. Could you set those that post into your driveway 2.5 feet from the side property line? You'd have to drill through your driveway. And then,
Of course, I'd rather not compromise the integrity of the existing slab, but I guess I could do what's necessary.
Yeah, Mr. Higgins, just to go back and clarify, because I'm still a little confused, because you made mention of this survey that you have where you said on that survey, you had a 30-inch clearance between that slab and the adjoining property owner, but did you say that is no longer the case there? That slab is sitting within just a few inches of the adjoining property, and that's the true property line?
Bill, the driveway is, the house is 36 inches, but the driveway is closer to that property line, the existing
close to the
driveway.
property line. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that threw me at first. No.
Yeah, okay. I'm getting turned around confused. Okay.
The return on your garage is what, before your garage door starts, is, it looks like 2 feet.
How much space do we have between the property line and the cement, the concrete of the garage?
Mr. Higgins, did you hear the question?
I don't have those figures right off. It's been a number of weeks since I actually measured it from the slab or the house to the property line. But like I say, the house structure, that north wall is only 30 inches from that fence, which is the actual property line.
I'm trying to think of a way to keep you off of that concrete.
At a minimum, that's what I was hoping for as well.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess another question would be that with the 1 hour firewall that's mandated, am I turning this thing into a structure, or no, it's still considered still a carport unattached?
It would still be, under the residential code, it would be, whether it's a carport or anything to that effect, it's considered a structure. So it's still a structure. A carport's a structure, if that helps.
Okay, it doesn't fall under any other definition or classification as a structure then, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
To add some more dimensions on this, you could actually, not having to scale, you could actually set those posts in 5 foot from the property line and put the overhang. Y'all don't count the overhang towards the side property line as encroachment, do you?
Zoning does not.
There is, under the International Residential Code, there is an allowance for an overhang. And I believe, and I apologize, but I believe it's 24 inches without having to create any kind of rating for underneath.
Have you, Mr. Higgins, have you measured, if you could put, what I'm seeing, and it's going to be tight, for that post out by the alley and the post by your house, if you pull it, start it there at 5 feet, how much driveway do you have left over to get in there?
Possibly 18 feet, which I can tell you right now, that's going to make the overall layout look very odd and nearly impossible to put 2 vehicles under there.
Are you putting 2 posts, two posts in, one at the front, one at the house?
Right, there's 2 on the south side next to my backyard fence, and then of course 2 on the north side, where we're talking about the boundary issue.
Yeah, that would, if you get it that way, if I'm understanding properly, you wouldn't have to put the firewall. The return on your garage, I'm guessing, is probably 24 before your garage door starts. Kind of looks like it. You have 36 over there already, so that's getting 60 inches. Getting to that 5 foot point. You're just offsetting your post away from the property line.
Yeah, okay, I guess. Where the end of the act. Go ahead, sir.
And then on the when you do the offset, you're still going to be allowed to put a 24-inch overhang on that side property line. You'll be able to extend your overhang because they're not counting the overhang as a setback.
Okay, so seeing how the driveway slab does not, as it's now poured and it's been there, it doesn't go all the way to that fence line. Is it possible to set a post within the south of the north boundary at the end of the slab and still be on my property line? Or still be within the specifications of the code?
Say that one more time, Mr. Higgins. I didn't quite catch it.
What I'm asking, if that by that diagram, by the picture, it looks like I've got just a little more, well, barely, a little wider space at the alley side of the slab. So again, it's not gonna be squared up unless I go into the concrete area of the existing slab, which would render putting two vehicles or any usable space in there virtually useless.
You could, it'd be tight, but you
So-
be limiting the firewall, but you're only putting two posts.
Right. So, but I'm also clarifying that putting up this firewall would have to be a fully enclosed on the north side between the posts.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
There's some 1% allowance for an opening.
Okay.
An opening protective. So like if he, say, for example, he wanted to put some kind of glazing, we can look at that. Glazing has to carry a 20-minute protective. Again, another common feature that might help is you'll see on the zero lot side.
Go ahead.
Me? Yeah.
On the zero lot line homes, you'll see they'll do some glass block. That's how they achieve that opening protective, those 20 minutes.
I'm out of suggestions. This is the way I understand it. No, if we go the 2.5 foot, it's still going to trigger the firewall. If we go 0, it's going to trigger the firewall. The only way to get out of the firewall is to go 5 foot. That's the way I'm understanding it.
That's correct.
Mr. Higgins, can you live with 2.5 feet?
I guess we'd have to, if that would allow for not having to go into the existing slab, adding to the cost of this project.
I couldn't tell that by this drawing, by the drawing here. All right. Any more comments from the board?
If we go under the 2.5 feet, I mean, he's still going to need the firewall anyhow. So I'm thinking we can go from 0 to 1 is what I'd like to do.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Well, are you taking motions? I'm just talking out. I mean,
Any more comments from the board? Okay, David, you want to do a motion?
well, I'd like to motion that we pass the or motion for the. Let me look it up here. I got to read what I have on here. Uh-oh. I guess motion to approve the rear yard setback and then to approve also for a 0 to 12-inch side setback on the
Side yard.
Would include
side
the,
yard setback.
which would include the fire rating code.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. We ready to vote? Let's have the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed, pass 7-0 for 0-1. Mr. Higgins, did you understand what we just did?
I guess I'll be receiving a notice from the city on the specifications for this then at a future date.
Yes, we allowed you zero feet from the side property line to 1 foot off the side property line to set your post.
Okay, and I will consult with the contractor on what needs to be adjusted with the plan to comport with the International Building Code.
Right, you'll have to put the firewall up.
Okay,
Buy your
Right.
neighbor an Outback or Texas Roadhouse $100 meal ticket, so they'll let you do that.
well, we're on pretty good speaking terms as it is, so I think that'll be fine. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Higgins.
you.
Thank you.
That's my agenda. My agenda go. That was a tough one. All right, let's see, we have item number 4. ZBA 21-08, 1412 South Oak Street, LaPac. Single member district number 3, Harry Thomas. A request for approval of a variance from section 501.A, the zoning ordinance to allow for a side. Is this the same one? To allow for a side yard setback of 0 feet in lieu of the required minimum 5 feet in order to enclose an existing carport immediately adjacent to the rear of a residence within the general commercial heavy commercial zoning district at 1412 South Oak Street. Staff, who's presenting this one?
Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. Thank you, Mr.
You
Chairman.
can't present 2 in a row, Sherry.
I can't?
No.
I can give it to Charlie. Well, actually, it's Charlie's anyway. As you can see by this picture, this is the house. This is, or was the carport. Staff does believe that that carport does project into the alley, which contributes to the concern that we have. This, as you indicated, is District 3, Mr. Thomas's district, and it is the Forest Concho neighborhood. The zoning there is general commercial, heavy commercial, but residential must be residential housing code requirements. We sent out 16 notices. I talked to about 3 people who called, but nobody turned in anything either for or against. This is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. This is the carport that the applicant has drawn on there. Yard is here. The kitchen, the house itself is right here. There is an area in the backyard where he has or would like to put some storage units, but he has indicated that he wants or wanted to enclose that carport because the carport itself is right on or projects into the alley, and it's a 20-foot alley. When you go to pull into the carport, it's just too small a space to pull in, so it wasn't usable and he wanted to enclose it. Again, the allowed variances, as you're well aware, are special circumstances, overriding public interest, and literal enforcement. The applicant in this case believes that literal enforcement on this is what will keep him from using his existing carport as storage space or for housing space, and he believes that he cannot use it as a carport, and therefore he's being kept from utilizing his property. when we first met with Mr. Pack, he came in to get a permit to enclose the carport. Talked to him at that time, told him what the problems were, and that the carport, the existing carport, appeared to project into the alley. So number one, he would have to show us that it did not project into the alley through his survey. And then he would have to request a variance, because even though it was against an alley, it was immediately adjacent to the existing house and therefore had the 5-foot side yard setback. However, once he applied for that variance, staff went out to take the pictures. Staff went out the day that the applicant came in to take a look at it, so if he did apply, we'd be prepared. It was strictly a open carport, and then when I went out to take the pictures for the staff report, the applicant had enclosed the carport with concrete and cinder block, and had either it's a glass window or a sliding glass door that he's put in there. I asked the fire marshal to go out and take a look. He did. He agreed with staff that we now have a piece of property that is in violation and is of concern, because it's now it's enclosed, it's part of the physical structure. It's obviously did not get a building permit. He was issued, I believe, a notice and a stop work order, and he continued to work on it. And he was working on it the day that the fire marshal drove out there. And so staff is recommending that the applicant be denied the variance. We believe that the 5-foot minimum requirement here, we don't know whether or not it can meet the 1-hour firewall, because we don't have a plan. It hasn't been inspected. We don't know what has been done. So considering the variance and having the same kind of discussion that you had on the previous one presents a real problem, because we don't know. So staff is recommending that it be denied. And with that, I'll quit sharing and answer any questions you might have.
Right. Thank you, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry from the board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron Vanoy again. Sherry Bailey, there's a Marine Pendleton in our waiting room on Zoom. Do you know if that's associated with this case, a Marine Pendleton?
Yes, he is. He is a party of interest in this.
Okay, all right. Ray, would you allow them to come into the meeting, please? Thank you, sir. I appreciate your help with that. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Again, any board, any questions for staff? So it looks to me like, no one I'll ask, it looks to me like the overhang is encroaching into the alley. That's what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. It also looks like the posts themselves may encroach in the alley, but we just don't know.
It's hard to tell.
Yes.
There's one, yeah, it might be. So the 1-hour firewall would be to the alley side?
If we had a 1-hour firewall, we don't know whether it meets that criteria or not. But if we did, that would have been, it would be 5 foot required because it's adjacent to the house. But there would be the fact that it is against an alley, so there would be some leniency room in there. It would still have to meet the 1 hour firewall wall on the one side, but right now we don't have that option. Our staff doesn't believe that we do.
Okay.
So the main reason for staff, recommending denial is because with it already having been constructed, there was no plan, so you don't know exactly what's going on or if he's got firewall or whatever. And also you don't know where the posts were set. And so the main reason for the denial is that you don't have any info to really make a recommendation. Am I understanding that?
That is certainly, yes, a large part of it. There would have been perhaps some room to vary because it is adjacent to an alley.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that freedom now.
Info, okay.
Would there be any accommodations with the city, Charlie, that would, if certain things were done to that exterior that would provide the 1 hour fire rating, if that's what y'all were concerned about, or to accomplish where y'all at on that? Does that make sense?
Well, what we would look at is the fire break, how much of a fire break he has by that dedicated alley. The concern that the building department would have is we don't know how it was constructed and if it encroaches into the alley. One thing to kind of keep in mind, and I'm not here to speak for Ross Coleman, but part of that is they need that full 20 foot for any fire apparatus down that area.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
All right.
Is there a survey? Both these, they come in and, is there does anybody have accurate surveys of these, of this particular property? That would be the true line of where the property line actually exists or doesn't exist, or if it's, how much it's encroaching, or?
The city doesn't have that. It would be up to the applicant to provide that.
To provide that, to go get a survey, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
We'll open it up for public comment. Mr. Lepak, floor is yours.
Okay. My name is Michael Lepak. I'm trying to improve the property and enclose the garage and put in the storerooms behind the shack. There was a lot of talk about the fire line and being right in the back, right on the property line and stuff. But the shack, I understand itself is grandfathered because all the buildings in 1940 were built that way, with the house and the shack where it's located. I was not part of the construction of the carport or the planning or anything that was done 20 years before me. The only thing that we did is partially enclose the carport. I did some emergency work on the garage door and put in temporary doors. But the garage door was going to be replaced. So the garage door itself, the staff has a picture of, did not provide for this meeting to put me in the worst possible light for the meeting, not providing the picture that they took of the condition of the garage that I put temporary doors in. When the fire marshal came by and saw me working on the building, that was because I was installing the temporary doors, because my insurance company, that at the time was Nationwide Insurance, had cited me and was going to cancel my insurance based on the fact that that garage door was in such a bad state of repair. So at the time, I had no choice. This was also going on. The city planner got upset with me because I did the emergency doors. She took it that I fully enclosed the garage. That was not my intent. I put in those emergency doors so that I would not have to cover space, and I built a small frame around it so that the doors could go in temporarily. The garage door is coming back. The city does have, or the city planner right there has a picture of the before picture. She stated that already to me on the phone, that she took a picture before and when she got mad at me because I put that structure, that temporary structure in, that I enclosed the carport completely. That was not the intent. The intent was because my insurance company was going to cancel my insurance. They did, and I had to get new insurance. So I needed to get the repair on the garage at the time, and I didn't have any time. If I had more time, it would have been different. But they were going to cancel my insurance, and I was trying to save the insurance policy. However, I was unable to do that, and the insurance company canceled my policy based on that garage, which she has a picture of, and did not provide for this session to make me in the worst possible light at the moment, as fully enclosing the garage, and that was not the intent. Second to that, the condition of the shack is in need of repair. Based upon our work on the shack, indicated that we were going to have to put in some kind of more sturdy structure. So I put in the request for 2 storerooms, but behind the shack, intending to come forward and do the repairs on the shack coming from behind with the 2 storerooms that I put a variance in for. The 2 storerooms is immediately behind the shack, even with the shack and even with the property line, because the shack was built on the property line and is grandfathered by the city. And there's got to be hundreds of buildings around the city where in 1940 they built that particular attachment. In fact, in this neighborhood, she claimed in the report that nobody else has that. That is in fact not the truth. Immediately behind me, the building behind me has a shack, and immediately to my side, they have a common area, and the shack that's there, they have somebody living in there. They made it an apartment. So everyone in this neighborhood all have the kind of shack building that I have. So
let me interrupt you, Michael, for a second. You call him the shack.
The shack is
the part that you enclosed in. Looks like you put up a 6-foot fence, pickets in front of it. Is that what I'm seeing? And then the white painted building behind it, that's not yours?
The white building behind it is the shack.
Okay. So which one are we dealing with? The white building or the one that?
The carport that we're talking about is on the side, and it's where the fence line is. She took a picture of the temporary doors that I put commercial doors in. I took the garage door out because it was in such a state of ill repair. She has the picture, the original picture of the garage door as it was before I put that temporary structure in, and it's not present for this meeting because she withheld it to put me in the worst possible height.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, if I can address one thing about this comment that keeps coming up about withholding pictures or whatever. This is a public hearing by which the city presents its case and the applicant presents their case. It's incumbent upon whichever side presenting to muster their evidence together and present it to this board. If the applicant has pictures that he wants to present, he's more than welcome to present that to this board. But there's no requirement that says that the city has to present certain evidence. I mean, I just want that understood here, and that there's been no withholding of anything. It's just the city's presenting its side. So,
Thank you, Mr. Dyson. Well, I'm confused. Which one are we working on? The old shack in the back or the one that's got the haydock block built and then closing up the opening?
The request for a variance was for the carport, to enclose the carport.
It's not the white building in the back?
No.
That looks like it's encroaching too.
When you go out there, what was the carport is still out in front of what the applicant is determining is the shack. So in all honesty, that we weren't dealing with the shack. We weren't addressing the shack. It's strictly the carport that he wanted to enclose.
Mr. Novak, do you have a survey?
No, sir. I just have the carport that I was going to enclose and the storeroom that I was going to put behind the shack. The two rooms, and it is included in the diagram and the request for the two storerooms to come in behind the white shack. Yes. So the white shack was part of it.
So if you don't have a survey, how do you know you're encroached?
I didn't know I encroached. I wasn't trying to be encroached. I stayed on the
Existing when if there's not.
I stayed with the
or the Sherry, or the outlines of the property. That's GPS, right? That's pretty close to the survey lines, or is that a guesstimate?
It's pretty close to the survey line. The other factor we were using was the phone, the electric pole, the phone pole out there. It's set quite a ways in from the front of that garage.
Well, they could be part of the property though, couldn't they? Not the alley?
It could, but we don't know at this point.
No.
Right. That's why we were concerned.
Yeah, you need a survey so we know exactly what we're looking at. That could be a utility easement going on there, and it'd be part of your property. Those poles.
Gary, I have a question.
Yes. Hello.
For Michael. This is
Yes.
Debbie. Could you tell me when you first got the notification from Nationwide that repairs needed to be done to avoid cancellation? Do you have the date on that letter?
for the repairs on the garage for the garage that they canceled my insurance.
Yeah.
Do I have a date on that? Okay, so yeah, I have a date on that. That would be David, are you here? David? Well, that would have been last month.
So they normally give 30 days minimum, usually more than that for anything that would need to be fixed.
Well, that would have been last month, and the end of April, the cancellation of the insurance, so I had to change insurance.
So you only got 30 days. Did you get 30 days notice that the repairs had to be done or more?
Yes, ma'am. I got a notice of cancellation, and I had to pick up new insurance.
Right, but my question was, how long did you have to make those repairs from the first time they notified you?
They were intent in less than a month.
Okay, something's wrong. They never give you less than 30 days.
Charlie, let me ask you if Michael was to would have brought this into y'all prior to doing any of this pre-construction modifications or insurance salvation things, and y'all would have looked at those plans and you'd have pulled it up on y'all's GSI maps and seen the carport would appear to y'all as being encroaching or over the property line, would that be something that would have to be cured before y'all would have done something regarding any kind of allowance or approval?
Yes, sir. We would ask for some kind of proof to show that it either sits on or inside the property lines.
Right.
We would not
Yeah.
be able to issue a permit to encroach into the alleyway, even
The
if it's
alleyway,
existing,
yeah.
we wouldn't be able to continue that.
Right, exactly, yeah. Okay, thanks.
I do have a question for Michael as well. This enclosure of the carport, you mentioned twice that you didn't intend to do that, that it was temporary was a word you used as well. Am I to take that to mean that you sort of put this up in order to, you said, to hold the garage doors? And so I'm assuming the garage is on the back side of the enclosed carport.
Yes.
Okay. And is your plan today to take the cinder blocks down and go back to just the enclosed carport? Or was your whole intent eventually to enclose this?
No, ma'am. My intent was to make the carport wider. There's between the white building, which I call the shack, and where the garage was, where I put the temporary doors. Those two commercial doors that are to cover space. The intent was to have the garage wider because of my pickup truck being a full-size truck. I need the space, so the intent was to make the carport wider and reflect a bigger carport going up, even with the shack.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Candy. I'm sorry.
So the enclosure that you wound up doing, because you're calling it temporary, can we take that to mean that it's coming back down so that you can do the widening you were intending to do?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So you're gonna turn it back into a carport.
I'm going to turn it back into a carport. Yes, sir. The other part of the carport will be partially enclosed, but that does not include where the garage door is. Yeah, so we're talking about where I installed the temporary doors, the commercial doors. That was a garage. The garage itself was broken. It had a board in front of it to cover broken glass. So the garage can never be used. You cannot ever pick up the garage with that board in front of it. So the insurance company that was an unworkable garage. The insurance company did not care for that, and on their inspection, they noted it as a default. So all I was trying to do was erect something to cover a hole until I put in a wider garage.
Are you a brick mason? That's pretty extensive temporary there with the block.
I am not a brick mason. My wife is from Vietnam, and she has exhibited exemplary skills with the cement and the brick.
So the request here is for the whole width of the building or just where the garage is gonna go?
Just where the garage is gonna go.
Did I ask that right, Sherry? Probably not.
I'll be honest, at this point, I'm confused. My understanding was he was requesting the variance to enclose the carport. That's how we worded it. He agreed that's what, at the time, that was what he was asking for, and that's what it says in the application.
Gonna enclose it. Didn't mention anything about putting the garage door back. Making it, no.
No.
I-
So,
The garage door, the issue came up after I had already filed the initial request.
yes, it did, because I had gone out that night, which is my standard. I go out and look at it, so that if that application comes in, I know what to look for. And the carport was not enclosed, it was open.
Okay. Any more board comments?
No, but it sounds like the application needs to be reworked to me.
Yeah, me too.
What I think.
Absolutely.
And
All right, we'll close down the public comment unless Mr. Lepak has something else he wants to add that he hadn't already addressed. We'll go for a motion. Mr. Lepak?
Okay, so the initial request was for enclosing the carport. The issue with the garage door and stuff in the repairs came up after, so that was not an intent to fully enclose the garage. The issue was to make the garage wider. So and then the storerooms, that was part of the request. It is in there for the two rooms behind the shack, because I was going to work from the behind the shack moving forward to make repairs on the shack. So and the shack being immediately adjacent to the property line is grandfathered by city charter. It
If
was
I
built
could
that,
ask a
it was
question.
built that way in 1940, by the way. The year of the house is 1940.
Michael,
Go ahead.
you're not enclosed. What are you doing to the shack? Because that was not included in the application, and we didn't think that you were doing anything to the shack. That's why it wasn't in the discussion about the storage sheds in the back. When we took a look at that, it appeared that they would be okay. So I'm.
Yeah. So the intent was to put the storerooms in behind the shack, and then work forward to repair the shack.
Mr. Lepak, is all of these structures, all these improvements on your property, they're all within the parameters of the property that you own? In other words,
Yeah, they are. Yes, sir. She says that there might be an issue with the
carport?
with the overhang with the alley. In truth, if you look at the picture, there is a brick layout on the property line that is brick between the alley and the house. And in the actual alley where you drive, where the road is, the dirt road, between the dirt road and the fence line, right? Where you say there could be a thing, there is actually a line of brick that covers the property line. So it's there in the pictures. I don't know if you can see it. It is
Yep.
there is a line that clearly indicates the property line between the house and the alley. And I have not crossed that. I have always stayed within the property line.
No, there should be property pins.
Yeah,
Nature property.
yeah.
Well, if you widen that, you can see that what he's talking about in that next picture.
Yeah.
You can see that the bottom of the fence.
Mm-hmm. That's that stem wall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was probably put there by a homeowner.
Oh,
So
yeah,
That
yeah.
wouldn't necessarily indicate a property line.
No, no, but that's what he's talking about.
Right, I got you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Have you searched for the property pins?
What's that?
Have you tried to locate the property pins, the survey pins?
The survey pins? No, I have not.
Sir, ma'am, this is David. I was a previous owner. If you don't mind me interrupting.
No, go right ahead.
All right. I don't have my video on. Hold on. I've been just being quiet here because I don't know how this goes. I've never done this before. The property pin, what he's referring to, if I remember the last time I mowed that property before he bought it, it's right beside that brick to the alley side.
Okay.
It's about a foot away from that brick wall to the alley side to the city property line. So there's that first pin right there. And if you look straight down there, it goes, everything is inside that property line.
Well, not having a survey, sealed survey, we don't know that. Not that I believe what you're saying. There's no doubt I do, but that's the problem. I'm thinking there's a utility easement running down there. I'm looking at the two utility poles there. The fire trucks need 20 feet. I'm sure there's 20 feet between the utility poles there, and don't know that, but
yeah.
Need a survey.
Yeah, but he's not trying to build. He's not trying to put anything on the other side of the property line.
No, I know, but it's the way it's all drawn up. It's showing the overhang, best I can tell, extending over the property line. Maybe the post there, the metal post.
Yeah, well, there's a telephone.
If your fence line is the property line, then there's some encroachment going on there.
Well, you see where the power line is. There's a power line, like 2 foot away from that building.
Yeah, I see that. That's what's making me think there's some kind of easement running through there, which might be part of your property, which makes a difference, I would think. Doesn't that make a difference in the situation from an encroaching standpoint, Sherry?
From an encroachment standpoint, maybe, yes.
Because the drawings I'm seeing.
Mr. Chairman, just a second. This is Aaron again with the Assistant Director. Debbie, are you still on with us? It looks like your video is turned off. We were just
Yes.
checking to see if you're still with us.
Yes, I am.
Brandon, does she need to have her video on for us to have 6 in the quorum? Or
I mean, if she's able, especially when we vote, just so we can take the vote and see everyone.
It says the host has to start it.
okay.
Okay.
Ray, is there a way you can check on that? Oh, perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
I just didn't want the case to be in question if we didn't have the quorum still present.
Thank you, Aaron. You're on your toes.
Well, Brandon was the one that pointed it out to me, so I appreciate him for catching that.
Thank you, Brandon. All right. Where are we? Mr. Pendleton, do you have any
Yes,
more
sir.
comments?
Well, from what I remember, I checked that place out pretty doggone good because I own many more properties in town.
Yeah.
And or I did. I sold some of them off now, but I kind of watched that, and I didn't see anything that was really encroaching. Everything was like right up against the fence line everywhere around there. And so I didn't even think about it when I first shopped at the bank. It was a repo.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
how I wound up with the thing.
The satellite view looking at it looks like it's encroaching into the alley. I don't know if it is or not, but the
Well, I
carport,
mean, it's not going past that power pole. So, you know, the power pole, I'm just trying to figure. I know that power pole is at least 2 foot minimum from that wall of that building. Was the older building there. And what he's doing, hey, folks, what he's trying to do is improve that property. That property has been run down, and it should be in good shape. The man is spending a lot of money on that property. I'm not spending; he's spending it. He's really trying to make that property straight and right. And we just hope, you know, the court will, or you guys will just see that he's improving everything. And I don't think he's done anything illegal. I've dealt with city code for a long time, but I didn't see anything to my knowledge.
well, that's a noble cause, but we have to follow the rules.
Sure, I understand. You bet.
And not having a survey and doing the work without the permit, I guess, is what I read. But that creates problems.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to close public comment, and we've had board comments, and I'm going to ask for a motion. There being anyone going to make a motion?
The way it sits at the moment, I'd have to make a motion that we agree with the staff and deny until we get a little better plan and layout of the intent of what he's going to take down and what he's going to replace it with, and a little more specifics.
Right, we have a motion on the table for denying. Need a vote? I need a second, don't I? Need a
Yes.
second. I have a second. Somebody put a second in there. Can I second it? Bill, was that you?
Yes,
Didn't hear you.
yes.
Okay. Got a
I'll
second?
take the second.
All right, ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 I would just like to make a final comment. Before the vote was taken, I didn't open my mouth fast enough. I agree with Don that Michael needs to reapply with specifics of what he's wanting to do exactly, so that we can look at this with that eye instead of trying to piece this together at this point in time.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Let's do it over. All in favor for the denial, say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
You opposed? 7-0 passes for denial. Sorry about that, Mr. Lepak. You just need to get us some more information, and we'll work with you the best we can.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
Another tough one. Number 5, division report. Aaron, is that you?
Yes, sir, it is. As John mentioned, it seems like about 4 hours ago, that potentially June the 3rd, I think it might be, we will be moving to in-person meetings. We will keep you up to date on that. If we do, it will be in the East Mezzanine. For some of you, you recall where that is over at City Hall, but that's over at City Hall in the East Mezzanine by the Murphy Hall Center. So that will kind of be our next area. As we brought on 2 new ZBA members, I'm not sure, Sherry Bailey, do you know if there's any other vacancies on this board?
We still have 2 alternate vacancies.
Okay. So unless you want to come to every meeting, you might drum up some some partners in crime.
They're
and
not all this hard.
that's true. They're not all this hard. But we do certainly appreciate y'all's effort. And I know for several of you, even working through this process through our COVID, we really appreciate everybody being very flexible and working with city staff, trying to accomplish ideas and find solutions for our community. So we really do appreciate that. The last thing I'll mention is if there's any type of training for this board that you are interested in, please let Sherry Bailey or myself know, and we'd be happy to bring some stuff for the board at the next board meeting or board meetings in the summer to say, hey, let's talk about what does a variance really mean, you know, when we're talking setbacks, you know, what is our purview, all those types of things. We're happy to bring that forward to you. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, let's see. Next meeting agenda, next regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustments is scheduled to begin at 1:30 p.m. on Monday, June 1st. Like you said, in the City Hall East Reception Room. Do we have an agenda yet? Anything happening?
It's still open until Friday, but I believe there is one application in.
One application, okay. All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Need a second? Second, I'll second that one. All in favor, say aye and have a good day.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Gary.
everyone. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.